I gotta put this. You don't get too hot, honey. You get so hot. You overheat. There we go. First of all, these shorts are short. They fit, but they a little short. They fit, but they're a little short. Y'all, my computer only has 40 minutes before it dies. I was gonna do a talk at 2. And I got done with my schoolwork and I looked down and I realized that my computer is about to die. Crazy. It's always something crazy going on. Oh, my computer charger is in storage, so I'll have to go get that because I have schoolwork to do. Tomorrow I have a test. My tests are always on Friday. And then I have reading that I need to do over the weekend. So I'm gonna have to go get my charger. But I have 40 minutes left before it dies. So do not ask me why I did not grab the charger when I was over there. It's called stress. That's why. Because I never know what's going on day by day. Good morning. Good afternoon. I wasn't supposed to go live till 2, but here we are. I can barely see my computer. It's dark. Good afternoon. I hope that fan isn't too loud because I've got a fan blowing on you because it's hot. It's 90 degrees. And the phone gets hot because it's glass. So sorry if you can hear that. My bad. So I'm back at the library where everything went down the other day, remember? So I was in my car and I was doing a talk at 2 or whatever, and 2 of the librarians come out of the library and they say, oh, somebody called and said that you were in distress in your car. Y'all, when I got done filming, I went in the library to try to figure out who had called. And the lady tells me, oh, they didn't actually call at all. It was somebody that was in the library parking lot that saw me filming myself, probably recognized me, felt some type of way, and wanted to interrupt my live stream. And so that's what they did. They walked into the library. They said that I was out here in my... I'm literally doing a talk at 2. I was on the phone with y'all. We were sitting here working. 2 librarians come up because I'm going to assume it was a lady. Some lady had done went in there and said that I was in distress in my car and I needed help. So then I look out the window and there's 2 librarians standing here. And they can clearly see that I'm working on my phone. I went back to watch the video. I really debate if anyone even went in there at all. I really think that it was the librarians that just wanted to be nosy. I think that they wanted to interrupt my live stream, and I don't believe anything they said. Because I cracked the window and I said, I'm working, and that was not good enough for them. So I lowered the window and I said, I'm working. If you go back and watch it, they didn't even want to accept that. They wouldn't go away. They're like, oh, well, somebody called. Okay. So when I got off of live, I went in there and I said, well, who called? And she's like, I don't know. It was just some concerned patron. There's a video clip of all of this under my shorts. But then she backtracks. When I asked for the phone number, I said, oh, really? Well, what's the phone number from the person that called? And she's like, oh, well, it was a person that was in the parking lot. So she finally admits, and I don't even believe this part, she finally admits that someone had walked into the library to talk about me out here filming in my car. I don't believe a word of it. If it doesn't make sense, it's not true. I think that they were being nosy. I think that they know that I work from home. Listen, this is a town of less than 2,000 people. Less than 2,000 people. Everybody knows everybody. And even if you don't know somebody, they know who you are. Especially if you have a YouTube channel. I don't believe a word of it. I think that they were just being nosy and they wanted to come out here and interrupt my live stream. I understand that you would never behave that way, but I can assure you that there are millions of adults walking around with the maturity level of toddlers, and they have nothing better to do than try to interrupt my live stream, try to play music so that my video gets demonetized because of copyright things. We've been going through this for 2 years now. Y'all have witnessed a lot of immaturity out here in these streets. And it's made me crazy. It makes me crazy. Because I don't understand how adults behave that way. I thought that when I grew up that adults were going to be adults. No. Nope. Damn it. I missed the memo. Well, I know now. And, I deal with it the best I can every single day. But I do not, the more I think about that library situation, I do not believe those librarians. I already know that they don't like me because every time I go in there to use the bathroom and or look at books on the shelves, I was just in there on Monday. I went in to find content. I like to look at the books on the shelves, specifically the reference section that doesn't even exist anymore. And I like to look into medical books, psychology, crime, history. I go through and I look for things that I like, which is pretty much everything on the shelf because I'm interested in everything. And I'll pick up books and I'll take pictures of them, and then I'll go find more research on the subject so that I can bring it to you guys and share it with y'all. It's something that I've been doing for a few months now, and it helps me. I'm looking for these books. So I was in there on Monday, and like I went through and took, it's on sadism, the Anthill gang. I went through and I was taking pictures of books. So I was in there on Monday, and I could tell, you can feel the vibe of people sometimes when you're in like businesses or social settings. You ever walk into a room and then everybody gets quiet? It's like, okay, tell me you were talking about me without telling me you were talking about me. You know what I mean? Like, I pick up on these vibes. And so every time I've ever been in this library, these librarians have not been the nicest people, okay? Not trying to talk shit. If you want my opinion changed, maybe you should change your attitude when you come in contact with me. I'm never going to sit here and lie and say that someone was nice to me when they were absolutely foul, okay? So I already felt the energy from the few times I've been over here. And matter of fact, before I moved to Florida 6 months ago, we were over here on a daily basis because I needed the Wi-Fi to do Talk It too. And so I was in that library quite a bit. I could already feel their energy. I know that the librarians don't like me. They probably feel some type of way about the fact that I have a channel. Most people in this town, from the bank to the grocery store to this library, know exactly what my channel is. And a lot of these people watch my channel. They don't like me. It's fine. I don't care. I think it's funny that people would think that I care. People just interject themselves into my life, and any way that they can try to cause a problem, they will. I called the clerk's office and asked when my court date was, and they told me June. I went to get a worker's permit for dancing down in Charleston, and the clerk of court gave me a panhandling license intentionally. I've filmed all of this over the years. You know, the gym incident, where they wouldn't let me cancel my membership. They wanted to lie to me and tell me that a manager wasn't there when I just literally saw her. I go through these instances all the time, and I've caught a lot of them on camera. You would think by now people would just understand that people just really have it out for me. 100%. 100%. So, in my opinion, I don't care if it was somebody that came in from the parking lot or if it was just the librarians themselves. Regardless, the moment I said I'm fine and they saw me sitting here working, they should have left me alone. It's crazy that people do not understand that people are children in adult bodies, and they're so petty that they just want to try to harm some person that they don't know just for shits and giggles. It's sad. I never have I ever. And I feel bad for people that behave that way. I do. Yeah, as I said to the librarian in there, mental health problems are really bad out here. These people are really struggling with severe mental health problems. And it's caused me to have mental health problems. And it's caused my mental health problems to get worse because I deal with so many fake, manipulative, cunning, miserable people. Misery loves company. A lot of these people in this town see me online and they have this false illusion of what my life is. My life is, I'm literally losing everything. And people are just, I guess, so, I don't know if I want to call it jealous, but they're bothered by the fact that I have a channel, 100%. Everybody I know is bothered by the fact that I have a channel. So, I don't want to say jealous, but clearly they feel some type of way. Where's my arrow? Oh God, here we go. Here we go again, I can't see. So anyways, I don't know if I believe that somebody walked in from the parking lot. I think that it was just the librarians. They were just being nosy, and they know I have a channel, and they wanted to come and interrupt me because they're not happy with themselves. That's just my opinion, and I'm allowed to feel that way. The fact that she lied to my face twice. First she lied and said somebody called. Then she says somebody walked in. Weird. And can I just say that this woman is like triple my age? Like, she should be the adult in the situation, is my point. But anyways, I digress. I just don't know if I believe it, nor do I care. I just wanted to talk about it because it's like I go through these things every day. And a lot of the time I catch them on camera and somehow it gets turned around on me and I'm the bad guy. Anyways, let's talk about some flags. So y'all know how I'm always saying this is not a free country, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Y'all know how I feel about these policies and laws and regulations that they put on our rights. So there is a huge RV company out of North Carolina called Camping World. And this company, there's one in Greensboro, North Carolina, right off the highway. Huge. All of these, probably thousands of RVs out there behind a fence. And you can see it when you're going down Highway 40. They have these huge flags. These flags, I think they were around $9,000 a piece. Camping World, at their 8 to 10 different locations, they have these flags that they've spent approximately $100,000 on. These flags are huge. I mean, if you've been in the Greenville, North Carolina area, you've probably seen this flag. Greensboro, you've probably seen this flag. It's absolutely huge. It's beautiful and it's majestic when you're driving by it on the highway. But lawmakers in North Carolina have had a problem with these flags in recent years since this state has started leaning more into leftist policies. All of a sudden, the state has a huge problem with these flags. They don't even want them displayed, which is concerning because most people say, oh, Camping World is in violation of regulations of how big the flag can be. So that's the debate. The city is trying to say that the flag is too big. And Camping World is saying, well, we spent $100,000 on these flags. We've had them on our property for years, and we're not taking them down. And matter of fact, I love this guy. Whoever owns Camping World, good for you, dude. Good for you. I would really like to come out and talk to you about, why you want these flags up so much. Like, seriously, I thought about driving over there to the Greensboro location and talking to them about this because the city is saying the flag is too big. I'm aware that this state does not want to be, they don't want to rep American pride. And that's what it really boils down to, is that people feel some type of way about the American flag, just like they do about the Bible. Okay. So in my opinion, this is not about a regulation. This is about taking down American flags because of the politics of the state. So state lawmakers are now getting involved in the debate of whether a huge American flag can fly on private property. So these flags are on private property at a business, and the state has a problem with it. And this man has already paid, I do believe, over $10,000 worth of fines because he is dead set on keeping these American flags flying in the air, as they should. NC House Bill 926, known as the Regulatory Reform Act of 2025, was revised yesterday during a committee meeting. So they're revising old policies to make sure these flags come down. During a committee to include language that would limit a city's ability to regulate the display of flags on private property. This comes as the city of Greenville filed a lawsuit earlier this month against an RV dealership, Camping World. So the city's suing him in Greenville. And this is following an ongoing dispute over the giant American flag flying over its Evans Street's location. Greenville is seeking a mandatory injunction against Camping World after finding the dealership every day since January for violating city code. And I just want to be clear, these flags have been up for years. These flags have been flying for years. All of a sudden in 2025, they come to him and say, you're in violation. You can't have those up. And then this snowballed into apparently him being sued by the city. This is private property. This is not a free country. He bought that property. He owns a business. He runs his business off that property. If he wants to fly a flag the size of Texas, I'm here for it. That's his business. Greenville is seeking a mandatory injunction against him. Just said that. So let's see here. However, Section 17A of HB 926 now reads, quote, no city shall adopt or enforce an ordinance that prohibits or restricts or has the effect of prohibiting or restricting a property owner from displaying a flag under the United States of America or the state of North Carolina, including prohibiting or restricting the size of the flag or the height of the associated flagpole on the owner's property. The bill proposes that violations can only be given after an evaluation or written findings prove that the health and safety of the community are at risk. Oh, God. It's going to fly out of the sky and, I don't know, it's going to suffocate people as they walk down the street. Like, are we for real right now? The bill says that the Department of Transportation will make the call if a city believes the size of the flag or flagpole causes a traffic-based concern. So now they're going to try to say that the flag is an eyesore when people are driving down the highway and then it's going to cause them to get in accidents. Allegedly. None of the lawmakers sponsoring the bill are from Pitt County. The bill's primary sponsor, Republican Alan Chesser, who represents Nash County. The controversy sparked in October when the flag, which is nearly the size of a basketball court at 3,200 square feet, was first put up. Yeah, next time let's make it 6,400 square feet. Who gives a crap? I mean, let me tell you something. If he takes these flags down, this is going to kick off and we'll never see a flag in North Carolina again. This is not about the size of this flag. This is about this man showing his patriotism for his country. And it probably started out as a money grab. They were like, oh, Camping World, we can go over there and toy with him, try to get him to take his flag down. We know he won't, so we can rack up some fines on him. Because it looks like he's already paid over $21,700 in fines. And North Carolina is notorious for bringing in money through fines, restitution. They will literally start a fight with you, drag your ass through court just to collect money from you. It's crazy. And this is in all settings of justice. I'm talking about probation. I'm talking about fines like this. Like, once they have a taste for your blood, they're going to come for your damn throat, and they're not going to stop until they bankrupt your ass. That's how they play in North Carolina. And they will, the smallest, most minute BS charge or violation that they can get you on, they will. And they will toy with your life like you are a mouse and they are a cat. According to the lawsuit, Camping World owes over $21,700 in fines as of May 30th. So he's just racking up fines because he's refusing to take the flag down. And I read somewhere else he had already paid like $10,000 in fines. I just think that good for this guy. Like, I literally want to drive over there and interview him. We might do that next week. Like, I don't know if they'll talk to me, but I would really like to know, not the Greenville location, but the Greensboro location. I would really like to know, is this an act of defiance or is this an act of patriotism? Or is it a little bit of both? It's just really crazy that, you know, we have a huge homeless problem in North Carolina. We have a huge problem with drug addiction in North Carolina. Addiction services are lacking. Mental health services are lacking. And they're literally out here messing with a business owner over a flag. It's just crazy. But whatever. Good for you, camping world. Dig your toes in. Dig your toes in. So I don't know if y'all heard yesterday, but RFK Jr. and the FDA announced a plan to ban dyes in food. So things such as Skittles, Coca-Cola, macaroni and cheese like Kraft, all of the dyes, all of the artificial, yellow number 5, red number 40, blue number whatever, all of those dyes are coming out. And I'm so happy for this because we've talked about dyes for about a year now. And I've talked about how when I drink red number 40, my brain I can't focus like I typically do. And so these things absolutely cause neurological issues. They also cause worsening behavioral problems in children. There has been some studies to allege that it actually causes ADHD, depression, anxiety in children, and it can we know for a fact that it can worsen these behavioral issues when children are eating and drinking these dyes. And so it never really made sense to me why they were in our food to start with, but I'm glad that they're coming out of our food, and I'm so grateful to RFK Jr. for pushing on this. We need to get America healthy again. We need to get America healthy again. So it looks like the ban will impact thousands of commonly purchased food products across the United States, including candy, cereal, soda, and baked goods. And I actually saw a small report last night, and it said all of the dyes will be removed out of all of the cereals. Now they need to work on that processed sugar. Listen, we have all kinds of sweeteners. We don't have to use refined sugar. The move is driven by growing health concerns and studies linking artificial dyes to behavioral issues in children. So that was the grounds to remove these dyes, is that we were poisoning our children and that it was causing ADHD, hyperactivity, depression, anxiety, obesity. I could go on. Diabetes in children. Thank God for RFK. Glad to see him and Tulsi come to the right side. You know what I mean? So let's see here. Major food companies to remove all artificial dyes from its food in the U.S. I think they're planning to do this by 2026, but I could be wrong. Kraft Heinz announced on Tuesday that it would be removing artificial dyes from food and its products within the next 2 years. The General Mills announcing a similar measure the same day. In a press release on Tuesday, General Mills said that it's working to remove certified colors from K-12 school foods by the summer of 2026, and then all foods by the end of 2027. Wow. I wonder how much this is going to impact the grades. I really do. I wonder if we look in 5 years and see if test scores have gone up, if the reading has gotten better, if the math has gotten better in the areas that's where the children are lacking. For those that don't know, like 1 out of 3 children cannot read right now. I wonder if we'll see a behavioral difference or like a psychological impact from them not having these dyes. I'm curious to see. Only one way to know. Look it up 5 years from now. The company said only a small portion of its and that would have to be, taking the food dyes out, that would have to be in unison with a better education system to actually see clear results. And I don't know when that's coming. Our education system is broken. Anyways, the company said only a small portion of its products are being affected, with 85% of its products being free from artificial food dyes. Kraft Heinz said that 10% of its products currently contain color additives, which are approved for use in food by the USDA, including brands such as Crystal Light, Jell-O, and Kool-Aid. The company's decision comes after Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. unveiled a plan in April to start phasing out 8 synthetic food dyes in America. What are those 8 dyes? They're looking to revoke authorization for the 2 synthetic food dyes colorings to work with the food industry to eliminate 6 remaining synthetic dyes used in a variety of food products. Kennedy said the agencies had reached a, quote, understanding with major food companies to voluntarily remove artificial dyes from their products. It's unclear what action Kennedy could take if the companies do not comply. It seems like everybody's wanting to comply, though. Love that. Love that. I wasn't expecting that. One thing about these dyes is they absolutely make the food more addictive. That's probably one of the reasons that people continuously reach for it, you know? Shortly after Kennedy's announcement, Pepsi-Cola CEO said on an earnings call that the company had already begun phasing out artificial colors. In-N-Out, the burger joint, also announced in May that it was removing artificial dyes from their menu items. Other companies like Kellogg's have previously stated their products are safe for consumption and they are following federal standards set by the FDA. Last month, the FDA approved 2 dyes and expanded approval of a third, meaning it can now be used in a wider range of food products. Some studies have linked dyes to behavioral changes in children as well as cancer to animals. It's crazy that they knew all of this and they still put it in the damn food, though. My mama used to complain about red dye 40. She wouldn't let us eat anything with red dye 40. I mean, she was like checking packages religiously. So if I remember that from the 90s, then there was absolutely some concern back then. Otherwise, my mother would have not been concerned. You know what I mean? So they've knew for a while that these dyes were bad and that they cause behavioral problems and they cause mental health problems in adults to be worse as well. It's crazy. They want us all sick. Y'all, so I saw this. So thank you to RFK for making change. And hell, look at this. It's only been like 6 months and him, Trump, and everybody is really making moves. So it's kind of shocking to see an administration working because for so many years we didn't have an administration working, you know. They always campaign and say they're going to do something and then they get in there and do the opposite. So I want to talk about this super yacht that is docked in San Diego because this is a crazy story. So there's a yacht. They call it a super yacht. The yacht is valued at approximately $230 million and has been the subject of a legal fight over ownership with claims by both the government and a former executive of a Russian state oil company. So this yacht was found docked. They didn't know who it was. The U.S. government got involved trying to figure out whose it was. Now they have obtained full ownership of this yacht. The U.S. government has obtained through the court the rights to sell this super yacht that they found docked in, I think, San Diego. Hold on one second. $230 million. How you just lose your $230 million yacht? I can't even keep up with a bank card, but I'm pretty sure I could keep up with a damn yacht. It's so big. How do you lose it? Like, you know, losing a debit card is one thing. Losing a yacht the size of an apartment complex is a whole nother story. This thing is huge. So after a 3-year legal fight, the U.S. court approves the sale of an oligarchy. Listen, it's a yacht. It's a luxury yacht. For nearly 3 years. Now this report, so the first report says 230 million. This report says 325 million. I just want to be clear that this, I don't know why Google lies. I don't know why. This is through the globalsecurity.org, weapons of mass destruction. After a 3-year battle, a $325 million, it's a 106-meter super yacht. And the issue was who actually owned it. It had been the subject of a brass-knuckle legal fight playing out in U.S. federal court. The U.S. government says the Armada, which boasts a helicopter pad, a pool, a jacuzzi, and a stunning winter garden on the deck, belongs to some politician from Russia. It's a billionaire who was sanctioned in 2018 in response to Russia's activity around the globe. For that reason, the Justice Department seized the boat, impounding it first in Fiji, then bringing it to San Diego, where it was left it was left and forgot about. It was docked and forgot. Okay, So they brought it to San Diego, California, where it's been docked, while also racking up millions of taxpayer fund maintenance and storage fees. They said that it cost over $800,000 a month to maintain this boat. However, lawyers for this guy, a former top executive of the Russian state oil giant Rosneft, argued that he was the true owner. So there's two people that have come forward. Eddard and this other guy, both Russians. They're both claiming that this was their boat. He said that he was the true owner and that the U.S. government's case was flimsy and not backed up by evidence. On March 18th, a U.S. federal court in Manhattan gave final approval for the Justice Department to take action in the Armada. That's the boat. Days after throwing out this Russian's claims to ownership. Why did they throw out his... Did he not have a title? Did he not have insurance proof for the boat? Like, I don't know how they... Listen, I don't know how they would confirm or deny that this is his boat, but I would assume that if he had, like, you know, a mortgage on the boat, or if he was financing, or if he paid for insurance, like, it's kind of weird that the U.S. Supreme Court or the U.S. court threw out his claims to ownership. So, adding a twist to the odyssey of the Armada, this second Russian that claimed the boat, I'm sorry, I can't say these Russian names. It's Khudaiinatovs. Good luck. He was linked to another luxury yacht that corruption activists say, in fact, belongs to President Vladimir Putin. So, corruption activist, I don't even know what that is. Can we stop making up degrees? They're trying to say that this is actually Vladimir Putin's boat. Confused? Yes, I am. The article says confused, question mark. Yes, I am. Can you help me? So the sanctioned billionaire, the United States and the European Union started sanctioning Russia oligarchies and Kremlin insiders in the wake of Russia's annex of Ukraine's Crimea Peninsula in 2014. U.S. government findings that Russia interfered in the 2016 presidential election spurred more sanctions. So this guy, Kerimov, who made his billions in oil trading and major holdings in the state, gas giant Gazprom, was targeted in both rounds of sanctions. In the wake of Russia's all-out invasion of Ukraine in February of 2022, Russian elites sought to shuffle assets and properties out of the sight of Western authorities who sought to tighten sanctions further. In May, authorities in the Pacific island of Fiji impounded the Armada on a U.S. warrant which charged that the boat was in fact owned by Kerimov. So the U.S. took the boat. Y'all, I don't understand. I mean, I do kind of, but... So they're saying that the boat was in fact owned by Kerimov. So how do they have any legal right to take it? As part of a sanction? The boat was later driven across the Pacific Ocean and docked in San Diego shipyard, where it was forgotten. U.S. authorities have been seeking a court authorization to fully seize the vessel and then, in a likelihood, sell it. Lawyers challenged the U.S. seizure order, saying that both of these men is the ultimate owner of, or saying that the first guy, Khudaiinatovs, is the actual owner and not the other guy. This is complicated. So in court documents, the U.S. government did not dispute that Khudain links to the vessel, but citing that the FBI's affidavit, they argued that he was a proxy used to conceal Kerimov's ownership. So these guys, they're saying that these guys knew each other. They were working in unison to hide the actual ownership of the boat. This is complex. A former top executive has long been associated with the company's CEO, a former CEO of Igor Sechin, a former intelligence agent who was believed to be in Putin's inner circle. He has been sanctioned by the European Union, but not the United States. In 2023, Forbes estimated that he was worth at least $2 billion, and it attributed the wealth to long relationship with Putin and Sechin, who is probably some evil guy because his name's in the same sentence with Putin. Birds of a feather flock together. The Armada isn't the only luxury motor yacht he's linked to. Evidence attached to the FBI affidavit in the Fiji proceedings showed that Armada was managed by the Imperial Yachts, a Monaco-based company that was hit with sanctions last year. So, could it be that they were trying to hide this boat because they were scared to lose it? I don't know. I don't understand these things. The company provides yacht-related services to Russia's elites, including those in President Putin's inner circle. The Treasury Department said the Russian CEO of Imperial Yachts was also sanctioned. Can't say his name either. Imperial Yachts oversaw the construction of the 140-foot-meter, $700 million Seizure, which activists from the late anti-corruption crusader claimed belonged to Putin. So they're thinking that this boat belonged to Putin. Well, he ain't going to be happy that his $325 million yacht is being seized by the U.S. government. It's going to be sold. Let's see here. They claim that they have identified multiple crew members as officers in Russia's Federal Guard Service, which is responsible for Putin's security. So they did find out that they're going to be able to sell it now. They completely, the government has seized it. And they're going to sell it. They approved the sale of it. I wonder where that $325 million will go. And I did not know that they could just take shit, but I guess if those people were sanctioned, it changes things. Also, if they're closely related to Putin, that definitely changes things. How do you just forget about a boat, though? That big. Sure, you forget your car keys, you forget to take your drink when you walk out the door, but forgetting a damn luxury yacht that takes almost $1 million a month to maintain, that's crazy. Tell me you got too much money without telling me you got too much money. I forgot I even owned that yacht. What a flex. What a flex. So I want to talk about Dominique Molyneux. We were talking earlier this week about Indigenous women that live on tribal land and how when they go through acts of domestic violence, incest, sexual assault, or abuse, and they go to authorities, the authorities do not properly investigate cases of tribal women. And for decades now, tribal women, Indigenous women, they've been going missing and getting killed. There was another woman this week. Her name was Dominique Molyneux. She was part of the Navajo Nation. I hope I'm saying that right. Her family is begging for answers to what happened to her. They found her. She was beaten to death. This is out of St. Michael's, Arizona. Family of an Indigenous woman living in northern Arizona believed that their loved one was brutally beaten to death last week. Dominique Nez, the older brother of Dominique Molyneux, said that his sister was rushed to a hospital on the Navajo Nation, but was then taken to Albuquerque Hospital because her injuries were so severe. When he and his other family members, Gail and Gwen, went to visit Molly, he said that she was completely covered in bruises. First of all, let me pull this up. So they called her Molly. Molly was then put on life support. By the time her family made it to the hospital, she was essentially brain dead. this was Molly. Nez says his little sister was placed on life support. The doctors then gave the family the news that they didn't want to hear. You could see the trauma all over her body, her brother said. This is some of her family, her father, grandmother, and mother, who is still looking for answers. Quote, we were informed by the surgeon that there was nothing they could do because of the brain and head trauma that she had incurred. There was so much blood around the brain and they couldn't do anything. They made the heartbreaking decision to take her off of life support. He said that Molly died the next morning. Nobody deserves this kind of beating like this. This is our little sister. This is my baby sister. They all described Molly as being incredibly kind and positive, who would help take care of people and their children when they needed it. No matter what, Molly was there to help, which is why her death has impacted so many people on the reservation. And you know, here's the thing. I'd be willing to bet that these people know who did this to her. These communities are very tight. Everybody knows everybody. It's like a small town, you know, these little tribal reservations. It's like a small town. I would be willing to bet that somebody knows who did this to her, and it was probably somebody that she was very familiar with. The problem the Nez family has is that they don't know exactly what happened to Molly. They say that the Navajo Nation police aren't investigating this case as a homicide. And speaking of which, there was so many people, when I was looking into this, I was watching some news articles about Molly, and there was so many people in the comments talking about how the cops are actually not investigating this right now. Why? Because she's Indigenous. They're going to leave it up to the tribe to figure it out on their own. There's like because these people have their own tribe and their own land and they own that land, the cops do not want to get involved and interject themselves into the tribal matters. This is a huge problem. Like, I understand that these people are their like own entity, but it's still necessary to have law and order. This is why these women are being murdered at an astronomical rate in comparison to other women of other races. They're going missing. They're being assaulted. There's incest. I think looking at these tribes goes to show what would happen if we did not have law and order in this country. It's a necessary part of life. So the parents are saying they don't know who did this. I don't think that they've probably had time to think. You know, this is shocking. They just lost their daughter, their sister. However, they said several people from the Navajo Nation have reached out to them about the situation and alleged that the people responsible for their loved one's death, were her roommates. You lying. No, not another Shanquilla Robertson. So, there's been people who live on the reservation that have told her loved ones that her death was committed, or her murder was committed by her own roommates in St. Michael's, Arizona, claiming they assaulted Molly multiple times that led to her death. Tina, who was the sister of Molly, said, whoever did this to my sister has no heart. I agree, Tina. I agree. And they were probably jealous of your sister if it was her own friends. Now they are calling on police to investigate this and find who is responsible for Molly's death. Yes, you heard that. This girl was put on life support after being taken to 2 different hospitals. It's very clear that she was beaten to death. She had brain bleeding, probably blunt force trauma to the head, and the cops are not investigating this as a homicide. You heard right. Because she's Indigenous. We just want justice to be served. We want accountability. We want change wherever this took place. Not only is justice for Molly, not only is this justice for Molly, for all Indigenous women as well, it's just one of the reasons why all 3 wanted to speak up about the case and raise awareness and break the long cycle of violence on the reservations. I'm not just speaking for Molly, her brother said, but for everyone across the Navajo Nation, for families who are entering these issues with assault charges, domestic violence, and rape. Molly also has a GoFundMe up, her family, to pay for medical bills and funeral expenses. So yeah, you heard that right. The cops are not even investigating this death as of right now. The family has went to the media to try to get the media to change, the cops' decisions. They simply want this investigated as a homicide. They want to know who killed Molly, and they have every right to have answers. I wanted to highlight this because it really goes to show why these women are being killed at a much more higher rate, why they are being subjected to more domestic violence, sexual assault. It really goes to show that the cops just do not care. They don't care. And you think for a moment that these abusers, these narcissistic people that are implementing the abuse, you think that they don't know this? They know this, and that's why their behavior gets worse. It's literally so concerning. So concerning. Praying for Molly's family. So, I know that the war is going on with Israel and Iran. And this morning I woke up and got a tongue lashing from Candace Owens because she had posted a short that said, she said, sure, they're God's people. Sure, they're God's people. And she's like, you'd have to be pretty stupid to know. Listen, I was part of the No Child Left Behind, Candace. I can't help that I'm this dumb. And I pray every day for God to make me smarter because I can't try no harder. So Candace had a short where she was talking about how Israel is not the people of the Bible anymore. How yes, God says that they are God's chosen people, but their own actions show us that they're actually working for the devil. And so I'm like, what is she talking about? So I had to go find for myself. During the ongoing Gaza war, Israel, male and female soldiers, guards, medical staff have reportedly committed wartime sexual violence against Palestinian women, children, and men, including rape, gang rape, sexualized torture, and genital mutilation. So this was Israel doing this to other people. In February of 24, the UN experts cited at least 2 cases of Palestinian women being raped by male Israelite soldiers. Palestinian boys and men have also been raped and subjected to torture by Israel, and in some cases, the impact of rape and torture has led to death of the victim. So both of these countries are evil. I feel like war literally brings out the most evil sides of people. Seeing those bodies in Ukraine with Ukrainian bodies just piled up in mass graves, knowing that women and children were tortured, subjected to sexual assault by Russian soldiers, and then vice versa. Ukrainians were doing the same shit. It's sad and it's heartbreaking. And I understand what Candace was saying when she was saying that these are not God's chosen people anymore. It's like the thing with immigration. 20, 30 years ago, we had immigrants come, and specifically the 1960s, we had a huge flood of Cubans come here, Hispanic, South American, okay? Those immigrants from the 1960s, 70s, and 80s are completely different than the immigrants that we got in the 2020 to 2025. Completely different group of people. And I think the same thing is with Israel. When God spoke about them being the chosen people and his people and blessing them and getting blessed, and if you dishonored them, then you would, be cursing yourself. I think that was wrote for that time. Who Israel is now is just as bad as Iran. In August of 2024, Israel Human Rights Organization released a report on systematic Israelite abuse, torture, sexual violence, and rape of Palestinian detainees, calling the Israel prison system a network of torture camps. The report included extensive testimonies from Palestinians. The Guardian also received Palestinian detainees and reported that they backed up the report by the rights group Teslam, which says jails should now be labeled as torture camps. In March of 25, the UN Human Rights Commission published a report on sexual and gender-based abuse perpetuated by Israel against the Palestinian people, which concluded that sexual abuse of Palestinians is committed either under explicit orders or with implicit encouragement by Israel's top civilian and military leadership. Acts of sexual violence such as compulsory nudity, rape threats, and sexual assaults compromise part of the Israelite security forces' standard operating procedures toward Palestinians. Sexual violence is now so widespread that it can only be considered systematic. It goes beyond the level of random acts by rogue individuals. So they have created a system of widespread torture and rape that is acceptable. It's socially acceptable for their leaders to be implementing systematic rape across the country. Sorry, my lips get a little dry, honey. First of all, this is some scary shit, okay? Thank God for law and order in this country. It might not be a free country anymore, honey, but you definitely have systems in place to protect you. It's just scary. So it sounds like both of these countries, Iran and Israel, have lost their freaking minds, okay? They've lost their minds. They're all evil. I think that this war is senseless, like, you know, with us. Like, if they want to fight over there, let them fight. Do whatever you want, okay? But as far as sending my brothers to war for this dumb shit, absolutely not. Sending your sons and daughters, absolutely not. I hope that Trump makes the right decisions to keep us out of this, because the 20-year war that we had, we lost too many people. We wasted too much fucking time. We went through too much money, too many resources. And did we ever find weapons of mass destruction? I don't know. Great question. Did we? I mean, I know that we took out some top leaders of terrorist organizations, which was good, but no one should have died. Did we ever find weapons of mass destruction in the Middle East? No. No. How many soldiers died in the Iraqi war for 20 years? So around 5,000, but how many soldiers did we lose in the 20-year Afghanistan war? That said in Iraq. So it said 5,000 in Iraq, 2,500 in Afghanistan. Additionally, over 20,000 service members were wounded in action, according to the Department of Defense. Over 7,000 U.S. service members have died in the war on terror, specifically in Iraq and Afghanistan, since 2001. This includes fatalities from both combat and non-combat causes. The total number of deaths, including wounds, exceeds over 60,000. So it looks like total fatalities, 7,078. In addition to fatalities, it was over 53,000 service members have been wounded. Crazy. So most of these acts of torture that Israel has implemented against Palestinians, and first of all, I just want to be clear, at this point, I'm on nobody's side, because everybody's fucking evil, and I don't go into supporting endeavors where people have dirty hands, okay? Absolutely not. They're both wrong. Claims of torture, ill treatment, and sexual violence against detained Palestinians by Israel have been made before the October 7th attacks and invasion of Gaza. So this problem, this systematic rape system that they've built in Israel, these things were happening before the war started. It's just disappointing, and I didn't know, and I'm glad that I pay attention to people that actually care, like Candace, because I wouldn't have knew this fact if she didn't call me out and call me stupid. I take it personal. I take it personal. She was not talking to me, but I take it personal because I'm like, she's like, you got to be pretty dumb to think that these are God's chosen people. And I'm like, I set up, I'm like, well, I am kind of dumb. Why don't you tell me why they're not? And so I had to go figure out what that flip she was talking about. That's what she was talking about. The facts. Where is my cursor? There it is. The facts. The fact is this is a war we don't need to get involved in. Great for Israel for blowing these nuclear top leaders off the map. Yeah, but Israel in their own behavior has been just as bad as Iran and Hamas and what's the other one? The other terrorist organization. Tehran? No, that's a city. Anyways, you know the other one. They've been just as bad. I think that it would be really stupid for Trump to get involved in a war and to send more people to die for people who are blatantly evil and have no control over their country, nor do they. I mean, you can't, you don't get to rape and torture women and children and other men and then say that you rep for God. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't know what happened. Probably just Satan taking over. I don't know what happened to Israel, but we do not need to go to war. So I want to talk about Karen Reed for a second because I posted a clip of her being acquitted yesterday. She was acquitted. For those that don't know, Karen Reed was dating a man named John O'Keefe, he was a police officer. Him and his friend, Brian, can't remember his last name, but him, Brian, Karen, and some other people had met downtown. They had went out drinking. Brian drove back to his house. Karen and John get in the car together. They're driving over to Brian's house. Karen was going to drop her boyfriend off, John. She drops him off. She drives away. The next morning, she texts him to see if she needs to come pick him up. And she can't get him on the phone. She drives over to Brian's house, at which time she finds her boyfriend, John O'Keefe, dead in the snow. So Karen they tried to say, the prosecution, the police department that John worked for, tried to say that she mowed him down in a fit of rage after a night of drinking out with all of her friends and his friends. Unfortunately, the autopsy does not confirm this. The autopsy shows that most of the damage done to John's body was at the top of his body. He had what appeared to be, this was a topic of debate, whether or not these were dog marks. I still think that they were dog marks, judging by the fact that he also had dog hair on him. Last time I checked, Karen wasn't, a freaking feline or, a greyhound. It's not like she's going to be shedding dog hair all over him. It makes no sense. The prosecution's case was that she mowed him down in a fit of rage because the morning that she found him dead, they called 911 and Karen was in the snow. She made some very concerning statement. She said, "Oh my God, I hit him. I did it. I hit him." First of all, you ever been hungover and you can't think? You know how bad it is to be hungover? You already feel like trash and your brain's you can't focus. Karen was hungover, okay? She also was upset and shocked that the love of her life was dead in the damn snow because she had just saw him 12 hours prior and he was walking around coherent, fine, a little tipsy. She was shocked. And in her shockness, she said some concerning statements. She said, I hit him, I did this, I ran him over. It was, you know, she said some stuff. That was really all the prosecution had against her. There was no actual evidence that showed, from the autopsy to the damage on her car, there was nothing to show that she mowed this man down. Quite the opposite. There was all of this contradictory evidence that came out. Google searches from inside of the house. Someone had Googled how long it would take for John O'Keefe to die in the snow. And they actually Googled how long will it take a body to die from hypothermia. Well, if Karen mowed him down, who looked up that? Who Google searched from inside of Brian's residence how long it takes for a dead body to die from hypothermia? Because, you know, ironically, he was found dead in the snow, where he had been laying out in the snow all night. Now, I think the main cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head, but I could be wrong. Hold on one second. Let me just verify that. The only thing that really matters is the principle. Were there any injuries to the bottom half of his body? Nope, not a singular injury. But if she hit him with a car, where would she hit him? The bottom half of his body. The state's case crumbled. She was finally, hold on one second. What was John O'Keefe's cause of death? Blunt impact injuries to the back of the head and hypothermia was his cause of death. But they're saying, so the medical examiner determined that he actually died from hypothermia and blunt force trauma to the head, but they were still trying to prosecute this woman for running him over. Not to mention the dog scratches, the dog bites. Brian, who owned a huge, what is that cop dog, the canine, I don't know what they're called, German Shepherd. He owned a German Shepherd, okay? And after John was found dead in the snow, he immediately rehomed that German Shepherd. There was these huge gashes on John's arms, scratches all over him. Dog bite experts agreed that this was from a dog. But how could he have these dog marks and blunt force trauma to the back of the head if Karen mowed him over? You know, the prosecution was trying to say that he never walked in Brian's house. Then how did he get dog hair and dog scratches and dog marks all over him? You know, these people worked for the police department. John O'Keefe was a policeman, and so was his friend Brian. This case is riddled with corruption. There's allegations of evidence being planted. The sheriff's department has a history of corruption. It's my belief that either John and Brian got in a fight that night because John knew something and he was going to tell something, or they were just drunk and they got in a fight and, you know, clearly, in my opinion, Brian killed John. That's the only logical explanation based off of the evidence. So I'm so glad that her first trial ended in a mistrial. This trial, she was found not guilty. However, I do believe that I read somewhere that Reed was found not guilty of second-degree murder and manslaughter while operating under the influence of alcohol and leaving the scene of a bodily injury. She was only convicted of a charge of operating under the influence and was sentenced to 1 year of probation. So they gave her a charge of OUI, and she was found not guilty of everything else. So she operated a vehicle under the influence of alcohol. Damn, my computer just died. Oh, no, it didn't. I gotta go get the charger. Don't you die on me. Hold on, Jack. Hold on. You know, and I found it laughable that they convicted her of a charge of OUI and sentenced her to 1 year in probation. That's just a way for them to be petty. It's really crazy. They've put this woman through probably hundreds of thousands of dollars of lawyer fees, if not tens of thousands of dollars. Multiple trials. Her life has been her life has been ruined. And they just gotta charge her with something after the love of her life was probably killed by his friend, okay? And she was framed for the murder of her lover. Like, the court system has no empathy. None. This case was riddled with reasonable doubt. So I wonder what they're going to do next. I really do. I wonder what they're going to do next with this. Will they leave her alone? In my experience, no. But she can't be tried again for the same charges. For manslaughter, all of that, because of double jeopardy, she can't be charged with that. They could charge her with something else, but they would have to come up with better evidence because they didn't have any. I don't know. I don't know what this means for Karen. Hopefully they will leave her alone and let her go back to her life. But I really would like to see Brian charged with the murder of John O'Keefe. I would like to see the sheriff's department do their job and actually investigate one of their own for the crime of this, because it appears that he was absolutely beaten, if not inside the home, then in the driveway. His injuries were consistent with falling and smacking his head on concrete. Now, he could have been hit in the back of the head with something like a bat. But from the raccoon eyes, it appears that there might have been a squabble in the driveway that led to him falling and busting his head backwards. At that time, he would have been laying in the snow, and that would have been around the same time that someone inside the house was Google searching how long it would take for him to die from hypothermia in the snow. There's no coincidences. Why would somebody even Google that if they weren't genuinely curious? I think the police department failed massively on this. Failed massively. And congratulations to Karen, and I'm sorry they damn charged you with some bullshit charge, girl. I'm so sorry. They just had to slap you with something so they can say, oh, see, we charged her. So I want to talk about this woman out of New York, this psycho that was working at a New York youth care facility. She's been charged with rape and kidnapping of a teen. First of all, there's multiple reasons or ways that you would end up in one of these youth care group homes. So it's usually a house or an apartment that the state Child Protective Services gives funding to be open. Some of them are private, some of them are ran through the state, it just depends. Children who come from families, they've been taken from their families, so CPS has obtained custody of the children. They place them in what they call temporary group homes. This was a youth care worker in upstate New York. She's been charged with rape and kidnapping after she was found in a parked vehicle with a teen who had been reporting missing from a facility where she worked. So this was a group home worker, a grown-ass woman, 45 years of age, Jolene D. Spalding. She was a youth care professional at the Hillside Children's Center in Snell Farms, a residential treatment facility for at-risk youth in the town of Bath, Steuben County. So she was a group home worker who kidnapped one of the children from the home, held him captive, and sexually assaulted him. And I just want to be clear that we've been talking about these facilities a lot lately. You know, Emily Pike was a 14, 15-year-old girl whose body was found dismembered. She also went missing from a group home. This is the government, I want to be clear, this is the government who has custody of these children, placing them in residential treatment facilities where they go missing and they're found dead. This is the government. On Wednesday, law enforcement officials responded to a report of a missing juvenile resident. After a thorough investigation of the facility, they failed to locate the teen. They searched for him at different parks and recs. Hold on 1 second. So they conducted an additional search and located Spalding with the missing juvenile inside a parked vehicle at a nearby park. They were both taken to the state police barracks in Painted Post for questioning, though the course of the investigation was determined that Spalding had engaged in a sexual relationship with the juvenile. Spalding was oh God, your battery is running low. Yeah, I know. Yeah, no shit. Thank you for telling me. Spalding was subsequently arrested and charged with kidnapping and rape, both felonies, and endangering the welfare of a child, which is a misdemeanor. Oh my God. You know, the sad thing about this treatment facility was specially designed. It offers treatment to youth who have engaged in or been exposed to sexual harm in the past. So these were children that were either offenders themselves sexually and or had been offended and exposed to sexual harm at some point. This sick bitch. The facility, located on a 177-acre farm in Finger Lakes region, provides intensive residential group care for male youth ages 12 to 21. First of all, this is problematic in itself. We do not house teenage juveniles with grown adult men. This has been a problem for years. I personally experienced this when I was part of the foster care system. They would place me as an 8-year-old baby around 18-year-old men. Absolutely not. These are children with massive behavioral problems coming from abusive backgrounds. Why they have 12-year-old children with 21-year-old men is unacceptable. Unacceptable. So it provides residential group care for male youth aged 12 to 21 who have been accused of or involved in sexual harmful behavior. Whether or not they have been adjudicated in court is unknown. Whether or not they have been adjudicated in court. Spalding, who has been employed as a youth care professional for approximately 4 months. We do not let someone who has 4 months of experience have free reign of the facility. We always will have 2 or 3 other leads that will be working ahead of anyone who does not have years of experience. What the fuck is going on? 4 months! That's all it takes for a pedophile to have complete access to children through the Department of Social Services. 4 months. There's so many problems with this. We have a massively broken system. She was placed on administrative leave on Sunday after administrators raised concerns regarding possible misconduct involving a juvenile resident. Hillside spokesperson will not comment on this story. I bet not. I bet not. How disgusting. 45-year-old woman. And where is her picture? Great question, because I couldn't find one. I could not find one. Just in that article, there's so many problems. Just in that singular article. We do not house 12-year-olds with 21-year-olds. There needs to be a cutoff, preferably if we're housing 12 to 16 or 12 to 15. I'd say 12 to 16 and then 16 to 17 to 21, something like that. There needs to be a split there. There's no reason that those children, statistically speaking, are more likely to be harmed by the older kids, okay? Statistically speaking, housing these groups of children together, 12 and 21, there could be further abuse. Statistically speaking, that's what'll happen. So the fact that the Department of Social Services even house children with grown-ass men is concerning in itself, not to mention that this sick bitch only had 4 months on the job, and for some reason, she had full reign of the facility to the point that she was able to kidnap this boy and hold him hostage at a different location while sexually abusing him. People call me crazy. I'm not that crazy. There should have been 2 other people, at least one, on site that observed everything that new employee was doing. That new employee should not have free reign or be alone with children for quite a while. Quite a while. You have zero experience with dealing with children with behavioral problems. You have zero experience with dealing with children with mental health problems. And they just throw them out there. They just throw them out there. Clearly, she had only been on the job for 4 months. Sick, absolutely. And thank God, I mean, thank God her sick ass side started to show immediately, because Lord forbid if she would have been doing this for 4 or 5 years, you know, the amount of children. Most pedophiles, the average pedophile's victim number is 13. So most pedophiles have had at least 13 victims in their life, on average. So thank God she was busted immediately, because this would have snowballed and she would have done this for years before anyone discovered that she was a weirdo. But at the same time, everybody would have knew she was a weirdo. You know what I mean? She's weird, but she's just weird. You know, that's what they always said. Like Ed Gein, you know, the nipple belt man, the lampshade leg man. He's just weird. He's just weird. As he was murdering women, you know, he's just weird. They always know. Nobody says anything. Just like all the school shooters. Look at how many of those we were like, oh yeah, we can see it. Immediately, we can look at the mugshot and tell that something was not right. So thank God she was busted immediately. I feel horrible for this child that had to be subjected to this nasty-ass 45-year-old woman. The psychological damage cannot be undone. How sad. And I just want to be clear that that's the government that perpetuates this bullshit, that facilitates this bullshit. It's the government. It is their responsibility to ensure that these group homes and residential facilities are safe. And they're not. They're not. Statistically speaking, children are subjected to further torture and abuse in these places. And it's just heartbreaking. We have a broken system all the way around. All systems are down. It definitely breaks my heart for that little boy, because there's no telling what he's already been through. Well, I'm glad I was able to live stream today without anybody bothering me. Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? I think I need to be checking on you, because you're out here tripping. Y'all, I fell asleep with wet hair. I need to eat. I don't know what I want. I'm so stressed out. Things have been kind of super stressful. I don't know what to do. I can't do nothing about nothing, you know. You just do the best that you can when you can. You stay on track. You stay positive. You try to keep your head up. That's all I can do. I had a really bad day yesterday. But, you know, I feel like I finally have some clarity after, like, I don't know, over half a decade. You know, you ever like think you know somebody, and then you kind of like come into a different level of awareness, and you start to see people for who they actually are. Like, you had this false illusion of who this person was. And so I'm glad to have some clarity on who I was dealing with, because it's crazy how you grow up and you see people differently. You realize that maybe their intentions weren't good, that they're not good people, that they're motivated by evil things, you know? I'm just glad to know the truth. But once again, people continuously disappoint me. Maybe it's me. Maybe I just expect too much. I've talked about that before, how the level of loyalty or loyalness that I have is just, I don't feel like people have it much anymore. Like, people are not loyal. They're just disloyal, you know? Fake, two-faced, floppy. I don't know. It's really hard to meet people that know what they stand for and know who they are. I feel like there's a lot of identity crisis in America. I mean, clearly, clearly, we have millions of people that think they're cats. So, but I'm saying like a little different. I'm not saying like, you know, I just feel like people fall for everything because they stand for nothing. You know, I feel like it's not just, I'm not talking about LGBTQ plus issues. I'm talking about the average human. They just become part of the system, and they don't realize it, and they don't really stand for anything. They're scared to have their own opinions. Well, I'm going to go hang out. I'm probably going to work out, honestly. I need to try to do something physically active. I'm not going to the gym. And it's also 90 degrees, so I don't know if that's going to work out. But I'm going to try because I got to stay fly. You know what I mean? Are these clean? Nope. I need socks. Yeah, that, you know what really like bothered me? When I went in that library and I told that lady it's on a short, I told her, I said, it sounds like somebody, I said, well, the next time you see whoever come in here trying to start something, I said, let her know she needs to mind her business. That lady literally had an attitude over that. Like, you are the type of bitch that would start something. Clearly, these shorts finally fit. They're a little tight around the midsection, but probably because I'm bloated like a damn dead elephant. That's another thing. I'm like premenstrual, so I get kind of heavy. You know, you just feel like a lard. You feel like a tub of Crisco. You just feel like blah. Like that little green monster from Ghostbusters. Y'all, I had a horse fly in here last night that was flying around all night. I could not get him out. He was like that big, and he was just, so I put my window covers up, and he was like trapped in behind the metal window cover. And so I had to take the window cover down to get his body out from back there, because he was just in between the window and that, and he's like, you know, acting crazy. So I had to take that down to get his little body out. And then this morning, he was on the floor over there, and he was acting all weak and shit. So I tried to get him out again, thinking he's probably starving to death. And finally, after like 20 minutes of trying to get the bitch out the car, he finally flew out this morning. I wish you well. I wish you well. You like to drive me insane. I should have just killed your ass. If it was a human, that would have been different. I got so much more empathy for animals and wildlife and shit than I will ever have for humanity. 100%. You know, animals are like children. They're innocent. Grown-ass adults, they make those decisions to be assholes. That's a personal choice to be a piece of shit, you know? Listen, about the worst thing that a bumblebee will ever do to you is sting you because you were probably messing with them. Humans are different. You never know what you're going to get out of a human. Are they trying to hug me or strangle me? I don't know, and I don't want to find out. Yeah, so I have a lot more empathy for animals and children and stuff than I do humans. By far. I need headphones. I still didn't make my bed. That's how I slept on it last night. I need new window covers too. It keeps falling. The heat makes them shrink. Yeah, I haven't made my bed. I've literally been in the bed depressed. But, you know, it is what it is. People suck. People suck. You're full. Charge those. Now I need an energy water so I can work out. Y'all, I usually go in this library and use the bathroom. I don't even want to go in there now. They make me mad. Like, I always... listen, I can feel things. You ain't even got to say nothing. I see from the side eye. I can see how people feel. Y'all remember when I went to church in Florida? Did I tell y'all about the lady that was sitting beside me being a bitch? In church! In church. I went to my first Catholic Mass. It was lovely, right? I tried to find a spot by myself because I don't like to sit near people. I don't like people because they don't like me, okay? That's why. I ain't got a problem with anybody that's ever been kind to me. It's always some Karen that don't like herself, that feels some type of way about me sitting beside her husband. Bitch, if it bothered you that bad, why didn't you change seats with him? For real. In church. Some dean comes over, deacon or priest, I don't know. I don't know what they call it in Catholicism. Some deacon-like person comes over to me and she's like, oh, we found you a seat over here on the pew. And I'm like, oh, okay, thank you. So I get up and I follow her over there. And it's a whole, I mean, this church, it was Holy Week. The church was packed. It was packed. So I go over and sit where the lady told me to sit. Well, it just so happens that it was this man and his wife. You know, the whole service, that woman was like giving me side eye. I don't understand. I mean, I do understand. Her marriage is probably failing. They're extremely unhappy. Probably been together for years.